Welcome to Charlotte So Natural, and I am Charlotte, and I would like to share with you some more detailed instructions for our pattern, Dragonfly Dreams. So this pattern is available since the Central Kansas Quilt Shop Hop 2025. If you received one of these and you have made a few blocks before in your life, you would know, oh, I think I could make that if I just knew what the measurement of that block was, because it's going to match this. So that's the information that you get on one of these small postcard patterns. And we tell you how much yardage you need, and we tell you what sizes to cut. And this is like kind of hard to read, but it's like a postcard pattern. But I took it to my copy machine. I put it in my copy machine and I enlarged it. If you have letter to ledger, or I enlarged it 130% so that I could read it, plus I can write notes on it. Plus the third thing is it's easier to make the second time because I have all my notes and I can read it well. But this is the nice color picture of our runner, and that runner is right here. And you can see this is really kind of fun. And I have some tips for you though. If you need a few more tips than just the symbol, which is to cut a square and one diagonal means you're going to cut it in half once on the diagonal. You can make this quilt that way, and we have plenty of fabric in our kits and plenty of fabric called for that you can do it any of these methods that I'm going to talk about. So basically, if you're going to make it where you're cutting a square, you're going to cut the two squares. That's what the pattern tells you to do. Cut two squares, a background, and this is the dragonfly wing. And you're going to fold those in half. You're going to draw a diagonal from corner to corner on there. And we have this great tool we love. So you could take this, you put this on here. That line is going through the center, and you take a pen and you draw the two lines. You stitch on that, cut apart, press it, and you have this. However, it's going to come out, either it's going to come out exact if you cut it to 2 7/8 that it tells you on the pattern. We recommend you cut it a little bit larger, try 3 inches. So I have cut the squares 3 inches that I'm demonstrating with, and you can see my half square triangle has come out just a little bit larger, so I'm going to have to trim that down. We have another favorite tool that we use for that. It's the block lock. So if you have a block lock tool, this is a project to get it out for. So you just put that on there. Here's my 2.5 inch line, and I'm going to cut. I'm going to slide it down here and trim it. So that's just a good tool to know about. We love these little rotating mats. We have those also. So you'll be trimming them down to size unless you cut them the 2 7/8 inch. You can also cut strips and use your favorite strip triangle ruler technique, which ours is this ruler right here, which allows you to cut triangles from strips. So you would lay this on here, and this is fitting the 3 inch. It's going to make a 2.5. If you were going to do these, you would do the 2.5 inch strip, which makes the 2 inch finished, which is what the size of these squares are, 2 inch finished. So if you need more information about that, we have a series here on YouTube, Wisdom Wednesday, also tips and techniques for beginners. So check out those other videos. One of the hourglass block calls for a square and then to cut it twice on the diagonal. So that instruction is right here. So you're going to cut a 5.25 inch by 5.25 inch square, and the X means you're going to cut it twice on the diagonal, corner to corner and corner to corner. And then you have these triangles, and so you're going to match those up with the triangles of the other color. In my case it's green. If you've bought this kit, in this case it's purple. So you're going to sew the edge, one of the short edges together, and that is on the bias. So we want to be careful how we handle that, which brings up one of my other favorite tools, and that is the precision press pen. And this is a pen that is filled with a precision press liquid. It's refilled through this cap, and it comes in an assortment that includes a bottle of the liquid, but then you can also buy more liquid and in different size bottles. So once you have sewn that, or in the case if you're sewing it with if you're cutting a bias, you can actually apply this lightly, just run that across there and iron that. You can also apply this solution with a spray bottle if you like a little bit heavier starching. It's not really starch, it's more of a stabilizer. So anyway, you would sew those together, and then let's see, which one did I pick up? You sew those together, and then when you are laying it out before you sew, you need to pay attention to which side, importantly opposite sides, that your colors are going. So a shortcut to that, in my opinion, and keeping it straighter, is to actually draw, again, use that 1/2 inch space and go from corner to corner to draw a line down the center, 1/4 inch, but from both sides of that center line. In this case, because of my tool, I didn't have to draw the center line, I just drew the outside lines. I stitched on that, and now once that's stitched, I'm going to, well, here it is, drawn, and now I've stitched it, and now I'm going to cut corner to corner. So I'm going to cut corner to corner here. And then I'm going to cut between the stitching lines. And now you can study which way this should go. Oops, a little more pressure. So now I know from experience that I need to pick up the opposite corners. These are opposite sides. These are the ones that are going to go together. So I'm going to finger press this gently because it's on the bias. I'm going to finger press that gently. This one, same thing. I want it to go to the dark side, so I'm going to finger press it gently. Now I'm going to take it to an ironing surface. Move it to an ironing surface here. And then I'm going to take my precision press. I'm going to run that right along there. Alternately, you could run it along this seam line. It really doesn't matter whether you're working from the wrong side or the right side with this solution. So finger press that open. From this side, though, is how I'm going to press. And I've just gently finger pressed that so that I'm not pushing it really hard with iron. Now I haven't actually turned this iron on, but now you would press it. And once you press it, you'll get this really crisp, very, very crisp edge to it. It's sharp, and it's going to match really super well when you sew those together. So there is the really nice point once it's all sewn together. Before you sew this together, though, with the alternate block, the solid block, again, we are in our, this is what we're doing here. This is the goal. We're going to sew this hourglass with a solid block. We need to trim it down to the same size. So the pattern has told you to cut these background squares, white squares, 5 1/2, and you can see mine is a little bit large because I cut it so that I could slop and chop this. And so I just add 1/8 of an inch to all these measurements, 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch, and I plan on cutting them down. So again, this is the block lock tool that works on this. Here's my last seam I sewed, so that's just like it was a 1/2 square triangle. And so I'm going to put this on here, fit this onto this rail. And now I'm going to, I want 4 1/2, so here's my corner is on that seam, here's my 4 1/2 mark, 4 1/2 mark is on that seam, and 4 1/2 mark is on that seam. So now I will just trim that with a rotary cutter, and it will be perfect, and it will match the one that I just sewed. So these are now sewn, the hourglass. So you have trimmed this hourglass. It now fits the one that was told, you were told to cut 5 1/2 inch square, and you have alternated it, and you have these which will fit right in here. Now, if you are not paying attention and you are not following the pattern, you will end up with these, which look right, but when you sew them together, they have the solid line on the wrong edge. So this one will not fit in here, and then you will have to rip, which, oh, by the way, we sell rippers. We even sell the brand new ripper from Grey Goose that has, it's a little razor like thing, and it's electric, and we would be happy to show you that. That's a really fun little gadget. Anyway, so you can either save these or put them in a box like Kirsten did. There you go. We found them, and I had just ripped this one myself, so it happens to everyone, if you aren't just like on top of it. So that's why I recommend right at the top is to lay out your pieces as you cut them, to lay them out to make sure that you're going in the right way, because it's important when we make these little 4 patches now, that your tail is going to be straight and your head is coming off of the right corner. So we start that. You can do this either the way it's written in the pattern, which is cutting little squares. It tells you how many squares to cut of each of the background and the tail fabric, which in Kristen's case was green. So you can cut all those individual squares and pin those together and sew them. And so then when you have pairs of them, you're going to put those together into pairs here, and then those, you lay those together and you match that up. Hopefully you've used your precision press so it's very flat and tight, and I can feel that just by pinching that together that that's working. So I'm going to sew that, open it up, and I will have a four patch. However, you have to cut strips in order to cut your squares anyway, so we suggest that you actually sew these together as strips. So first sew them together, lay that on there, and if, you know, it's hard, these are 1.5 inches, and especially if you are not really experienced at this, it's very, or if you're using 2 different rulers, which may have really been the case here. I like to always use the same ruler throughout a project, so I have been using this one for my project. But if you use one, maybe the lines are a little thicker on a different brand, so that's okay. But so if this happens, you just want to make sure that you have these edges even, and we're going to stitch over here. We're going to assume that this is the 1.5, and then you can take seam-align glue, which comes with the precision press, and you can make little dots in here. I want to make sure that this doesn't shift, so I'm going to stitch my scant 1/4 inch from this side, not worrying that this is going to be a scant 1/4 inch. That's going to be fine. So I'm just going to put a few dots of glue on here so that it doesn't shift while I am. Did you see that? Can you see that little bead? I don't know. It's like the size of a sesame seed. It is easy to do. So finger press it, then take it to the ironing board, give the iron a press to iron it. It's temporary hold. And once you have those sewn together, now you can slice it. So I'm going to show you on this one, which I'm working on for the current project. No, I'm not. This is Kirsten's project. My project is here. Yay! Okay, so my little guys are going to have blue heads and tails. And I wanted to show you this one. So this one, this strip, this is finger pressed in the middle. I just finger pressed this one right here, and you can see it's kind of rolling. This one has been ironed with an iron, but there's no precision press. This one has been ironed with precision press, and I don't know if you can see it in this light, but I can feel it. I can even see this is rolling, this is not. This was done a couple of days ago, and this is still flat. This is curling up. You can start to see it's rolling. So this will still be usable. So I'm going to demonstrate here. We're going to cut this. I'm going to cut this in half here. So I've got my strips sewn together. And this is in place of cutting all those little squares. So I'm going to take this. Now I'm going to rotate this one. And this one is going to go on this side here, like so. And I'm going to match that up. And then, once I have that, remember this is still just finger pressed in the middle. So now once I have that, and I think once I really iron this with an iron and use the precision press, that I will gain back this little bit that I've lost. But if I don't, it's not going to be a big deal. So now I'm going to cut the 1.5 inch chunks from here. So right here, here's 1.5. And it's always handy to use the side of your ruler when you're trying to cut squares. Most rulers have a 45-degree coming from one corner. So if I know that this is supposed to be 1.5, because to do checkerboards, you want to cut it the same as your original strip was cut. So this is 1.5, so I want this to be 1.5. So I'm going to go to this line, which is 1.5, and I have a great double check going here on the 45. Well, it's not as obvious here because it's hitting at the 1/4 inch seam, which is what I wanted to do. So this is where we're going to cut it, except I'm not left-handed, which I've set it up. So here's my rotating mat, which I love, especially when I'm using the block lock ruler, so which I'm using in this project. So I'm going to move this over, and I'm going to cut my 1.5, and now I'm going to pick it up, and I'm going to pick it up. These are matched. If I'm concerned, I could put a little bit of drop of glue over these two items like this, just over that seam, and press that, and then I'll take it to the ironing board, and I'll iron it, heat it, just iron it close, and now I'm going to sew that, and when I have sewn that, it will come out just perfect like so. So now those should come out the perfect size because we've worked with the 1.5 inch strips, which is going to yield a 2.5 inch unit here. We'll just double check that. There's its 2.5 right there. It's perfect. And so now we're sewing it to the 2.5 inch squares, which they said in the pattern to cut. I wrote the pattern, sorry. Anyway, they said, they is me. So this has been sewn with scant 1/4 inches. So you can see that this is a little bit off. But you know what? I have plenty of ease in all of this that I can make that work. So again, if you're a newbie, beginner, even an advanced beginner, don't be too concerned about that. This is fabric, this is not wood, this is not metal, so we can make that kind of discrepancy work. So once we have those, we need either 2 of them. We're going to do 2 pairs to make the tail. And again, you just want to lay those out and make sure that all of your guys are going to line up in a straight line. If you're making the head section, you want 1 of these, and you want 2 more squares, which I had here a minute ago, and they are under here. So then we will sew 2 pairs together of the white or of the background. So we'll sew those together so we'll have a seam. And yes, one could cut a rectangle for that. And if you want to, there's no reason not to coming up in the future of the pattern, but it just was easier to write this and to give designation. Plus, it gives you a way to match that center, because that point is going to end up right in the center of your block and look real pretty. So it's like a nice marker to have that extra seam there. So that is how you do that. Then we covered the double hourglass. So again, you can make those sewing individual triangles together. You just want to pay attention to which way you are piecing them so that they are with the long green on the right direction of the, I would say it's on the left, but it's on the left if you're looking at it. Okay, so once we have those units, then you want to lay those all out, and your choice, you can alternate these in different directions if you want to, as we have here. You can do even more drastic things with different fabrics. The borders are cut and pieced, and the important part of the borders is that you make sure that you are cutting them at the same time, so that this one is the exact same length of that one. And again, back to that 1/4 inch and scant 1/4 inch I was referring to, you want this and this to be the same size and make this quilt fit those so that you don't have a cattywampus rhombus table runner. And then add the ones at the end and then bind, and you can bind it with bias or straight, either one. So if I have left anything unsaid, you can always communicate with us, either come in the store, we love to teach right from the cutting table, drop me an email at charlotte@sonatural.net, and I'd be happy to answer any questions. And we have plenty of patterns to support beginners and advanced beginners. But I will also mention this is the pattern for the finishing the quilt that has the same Dragonfly block in it. Again, I wrote this, I based this on the table runner, but it has a little bit more going on. So if you purchase this pattern, which is a $10 pattern, you will get more complete instructions that are involved in making the Dragonfly itself. This also has the surround for the Dragonfly, but it does have more complete instructions on how to cut half square triangles from strips or squares, how to piece the strips for the 4-patch, which are both things you use in this pattern. So don't be afraid to ask, and we will be happy to help you. So thanks so much for joining us, and we will see you again soon.